Alright, so we're back now for our first race recap on the channel. So it's Tuesday night now, which means we're a little over 48 hours post Ironman Australia, and I'll just jump straight into it with the results. So we ended up doing 10 hours, 22 minutes and 31 seconds for my first ever Ironman, which is a time I'm pretty happy with. If we were to break it down, that was an hour and 7 minutes on the swim, 5.5 minutes in T1. We did 5 hours and 42 minutes exactly on the bike with 3.5 minutes in T2. And we finished it off there with a 3-hour, 24-minute marathon to take us, to 10 hours, 22 minutes and 31 seconds. So that's a time I'm pretty happy with. I think in the last video I said that I was hoping to go around 10.5 hours, and that if I went below 10.5 hours, that would be a really good day. And we snuck in just under 10.5 hours. So that's a result I'm quite happy with. It's not really how I expected to get there. And we'll run through the whole day, obviously step by step, so you can see how we ended up with that time. But the swim and the bike weren't quite as good as I was hoping, but the run was a lot better than I was hoping. So it's quite interesting how it all played out. And I suppose we can just jump straight into it. So what I'll do is I'll run through the race first, and then we can talk about some things that I've got to work on, some things that went well, as well as nutrition and all things alike. So just purely looking at the racing perspective now, we started out the swim in sort of the middle to the front pack. I was hoping to go around an hour and 5 minutes, so I was right at the back of the zone 1 and at the start of zone 2 is where I started. We went out at a pace of 124 per 100 for the first 500 meters, and then it was about 130s per 100 after that. But that's because we were swimming with the tide on the way out. So had a really good pull on the way out for about the first 1.8k, because it was just an out and back more or less. But then coming back, we slowed it right up to 150s to 2 minutes per 100, obviously in the swim there, swimming against the tide. Now, I would probably say with the swim, look, on reflection, I was in good 2.5 to 3-ish kilometer swim shape. Like the last 1k in the swim was becoming quite a struggle towards the end. I really wanted to get out. I think, about 2k was pretty much bang on for my fitness. And I think that just shows a little bit of a weakness in the longer endurance stuff. A lot of our training in the lead up was, repetitions of 50s and 100s and 200s. So obviously we slowed down quite a bit there towards the end, and I think that shows opportunity or room for improvement on just that endurance specific type training with the swim. But anyway, when we get out of the water, as soon as I stand up, and I mean the moment my legs took my weight, I cramped up the worst I've ever cramped in my life. It was both my quads and my hamstrings just seized up like you wouldn't believe, and that's not a great combo of muscles to cramp, because you can't stretch your hamstring and your quad at the same time. So I sort of just hobbled over to the barrier and held on to that for like 30 seconds and figured, okay, well, I've got to get into T1. So I just managed to get up the stairs, and it was not a pretty sight, me going from the swim to the bike. And I'll be honest, at this point in time, when I was cramping that bad getting out of the swim, I was having some serious doubts about how I was going to do this day, because I just got out of the swim, my legs should not be cramping, this should not be how I feel. But it ended up being the fact that, I was really, really cramping. So in T1, I'm going to put my shoes on, my bike shoes, and every time I bend over, my legs are seizing up and cramping. It's my adductors, it's my glutes, it's my hip flexors, everything is on fire down there, and it's not looking good. I ended up just having to grip my teeth, bend over and put my shoes on mid-cramp, get out, get on the bike, and I just sort of start flushing out my legs on the bike, going pretty easy at the start. And probably for the first 40k, I'm not feeling really good at all. My legs feel dead. There wasn't any cramps on the bike. As soon as they got moving, I was able to pump some blood through, but they didn't feel very energized. That being said, like, our power wasn't too far off, and maybe it was a mental to a degree, the fact that I wasn't feeling too good, but we got out on the bike all right. So we were holding pretty close, power and speed to what I was hoping to hold in the actual race. So around 200 watts, and I was looking to do 31, 32 kilometers an hour. We were pretty close to that, but I wasn't feeling very good at all in those first 40k, and I was really having some serious doubts about how I was going to manage over the next 140k plus a marathon. I mean, when I got out of the swim and my legs seized up, that was a moment to really panic, but just kept going through the motions. And once I got to about the turnaround point on the bike and I started coming back, things started to click on. I got to see some family with some great support signs, which was a really good boost of the mood. And actually started to find a bit of a rhythm, physically and mentally, I suppose, and coming back into town, that was really great. Got to ride with a great bloke named Dave, and we did plenty of leapfrogging back and forth, and just had a really great fun time, actually revving each other up. Every time one of us overtook the other, we'd give each other a little bit of a cheer and words of encouragement to go and take on the next group to overtake. So that was great. Me and Dave worked well, and we gained back a few places on people that had flown past me, especially on the first 45k, because I was having some serious issues. And I probably rode quite well, feeling confident, feeling in the zone, or whatever you want to call it, for about 90k's, and then around the 120 to 130k mark of the ride, my back started seizing up like you wouldn't believe. So my lower back it wasn't so much a cramp, it was a real ache, and I was having serious issues staying aero and actually pushing any kind of power. So had some major issues on the bike towards the end, and that was getting pretty miserable for the last 60k, more or less, 60 or 70k, where I could hardly stay in the aero position. I had to sit up. So I really lost quite a bit of time on the bike in the first 40k and the last 80k, around that. So we got some good time in the middle, but had some issues towards the end where I really just couldn't push the kind of power I was looking to push. Anytime I was in the aero position and trying to push hard on my legs, I had this really sharp pain up my lower back. I think it might just be a lack of time on the road in a strict aero position where, in training, if things started to ache a bit, I'd get up and rest my back, get out of the saddle, or sit up out of the aero position and just give my back a rest. But in the race, I was trying to force myself down, and I suppose doing that for 100 kilometers straight, that's where I really started to cramp at around 100 to 120k mark. I was not feeling good on the bike at all, and that cost us quite a bit of time because I had to get out of the saddle. There was times where on a long straight, I was out of the saddle, standing up, pushing, not in the aero position, not even sitting down on the seat. So that's cost us quite a bit of time there on the bike. But the funny thing is, because I couldn't push good power, when we were coming back into town, so at around the 160 to 170k mark, I mean, I was a bit miserable because I knew I was giving up some time on the bike that I should have, been cutting in. But I realized to myself that my legs are actually quite fresh here because I haven't pushed as hard as I wanted to push on the bike. I couldn't push as hard as I wanted to push on the bike. And I knew as soon as I got off the bike that my lower back would release because I'm no longer going to be in that hunched over position. And I know this because I've had similar pains in training. And as soon as I get off the bike and rest my back, if I do that for a couple minutes, it comes good. And then I can go and run off the bike without any issues. And that's exactly what happened. So I racked the bike, we get back into T2. I think I took a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes in T2, 3.5 minutes in T2, and racked the bike, got out on the run. It was hilarious because my good old mate Dave, that we did plenty of work together on the bike, just happened to pop out of T2 with me at the exact same moment, and we're chatting away, having an absolute blast. And I mentioned to him, how fast do you want to run the marathon? He says, I was looking to do a 3-hour 30 marathon. I said, brilliant, I'm looking to do a 3-hour 30 marathon as well, let's go. And we just start heading off on the run, and we're going well above what we should be doing our marathon pace at. Everyone has always said you will start the marathon too fast. And I said, no, no, no. I will be strict. I am a strict person, very disciplined. I will start out slow and build into it. That is not what happened at all. We took off at like 4:45 pace. We were meant to be holding 5-minute pace, but I knew because my legs were fresh from the ride that it was a great time to capitalize on it. And I was running to feel. I don't think I checked pace very often. I didn't check my heart rate at all. I had no idea what my heart rate was until I ended the race. I was chatting with Dave, and I knew I was feeling comfortable. So we were getting plenty of Ks in. There, I think we stuck together for like the first 10 kilometers, and mentally, as much as anything, that really helped out on the run, especially putting that ride in the past, because I knew I had some issues at the start and at the end where I honestly wasn't enjoying it. On the bike, I wasn't having a great time, but as soon as I got off the bike, running with a mate, and the support at Ironman Australia is unreal. The people all over the roads, up on the break wall, it's unbelievable. I did not expect the benefit of having that many supporters out there in such a positive environment. Honestly, I can't describe the feeling of doing an Ironman now that I've actually done one, and I'll talk about this later, but it's really incredible, out on that long run, the energy you get from the crowd and all the supporters, and having family and friends there that you know is great. And then there's also all the people out there that are total strangers, but yeah, they just want what's best. They want everyone to do well on the day, so it's really great. But anyway, back to the run. So if we look at the actual splits for the run, we head out too fast, 4:45s, 4:50s per kilometre. But to be honest, I felt comfortable holding that pace. So, 4:50, 4:45 per kilometre for the first half marathon felt easy. I had a slight cramp in a calf at about 5 kilometres, only enough to, when you get a bit of a skip in your step and you go, oh, that was almost a cramp. But I was smashing down some salt sticks and I got on top of that pretty quick, and I did not cramp at all for the rest of the run, which is really incredible considering we started the day out of the swim with the worst cramps I've ever had. So I'll talk about this I'll jump into some nutrition and things like that once we've gone through the basic race details. But yeah, I was quite pleased with the lack of cramps on the run. So anyway, after about the half marathon point, the pain, I wasn't in pain in any specific points on my legs. The only thing I really noticed was a lack of energy. So the easiest way to describe it is it didn't hurt, but it didn't feel like I could run any faster, if that makes sense. So I couldn't have gone any quicker. I was going as hard as I could, but it was a lack of energy more than it was, pain in quads or, tired calves or dead hamstrings or any cramps that was holding me back. It was more just, I cannot physically run any faster. My legs just won't move that quick. So it made it a really, really enjoyable experience because I could run the entire time. I was present in the moment. I didn't have to zone out or shut off any pain. I could take in the scenes from the people around me. And maybe that's part of why I didn't feel the pain, because I was feeding off the atmosphere of the crowd and we were having an absolute blast out there. I was trying to rev up as many people as I could, and yeah, it was really, really fun. But yeah, get through the entire run, average pace for that, 4:50 per kilometre. So that's great. That's faster than we expected. I mean, I said I wanted to do a 3:30 marathon, but it was my first Ironman. I've never run more than 12 kilometers in a brick session before. So to go all out to 42, I had no idea what I was going to run. I mean, a 3:30 marathon would have been great, but I was well prepared to do 4 hours plus. So to end up doing a 3:23 or 3:24 marathon in my first Ironman, I was pretty stoked with that. It certainly made up for a slightly slower swim and a slightly slower bike than I would have liked. And we got to cross the line in great spirits, hang out in recovery, and the recovery tent at an Ironman is heaven on earth. It is the best place ever. I sat down in a chair, there was a few other guys that I'd recognise, and there was some people that had watched the training logs, so we pulled some chairs up together and had the best yarns. All you have to do is you put your hand up and the volunteers come over and they say, oh, what do you want? You can get ice cream, Red Bulls. I had a whole pizza there. It was unreal, and we just sit back, and then obviously the time comes where you have to get up, and that was probably harder than the Ironman, actually standing up out of that chair, because it took us quite a while. All of us did a big 1, 2, 3, let's stand up, and that was hard. We looked down and there's all the rubbish laying around us that we'd left there, empty cans of Red Bull and pizza boxes, and I just said to the boys, that might as well be on the moon, because there is no way I can get down there to pick that rubbish up. We hobbled out of the recovery tent and got to go hang out with the family for the rest of the night, and that was great. I just hung out at the finish line all night in the finisher chute. The atmosphere is unbelievable. If you are ever in a town where they're doing an Ironman, head down to the finish line that night and soak it all up. It's up there with some of the most positive, like just the environment. Everyone's trying to, everyone's there to accomplish a goal, and it's just an incredibly positive place to be. And yes, so much. I can't describe the feeling of finishing an Ironman with those people around. I'd love to be able to, but if you haven't done one before, yeah, highly recommend it. But anyway, that's enough of the, you know, hippie reflection times. Let's have a look at some hard nutrition facts. So, cramped on the swim. Why did I cramp on the swim? Well, remember last week where I was saying I'm only going to do a high fat, low carb, high protein breakfast, no electrolytes before the swim, no water before the swim even. That was smart, wasn't it? Wrong, okay? So I cramped the worst I've ever cramped, and one thing I will never ever do again is have a high fat, low carb breakfast before an Ironman. Next time I'm Gatorades and gels before that swim, filling myself up with electrolytes, because I think what happened is I jump out in the salt water and that just drains all the fluids out of my body, and I get out dehydrated and yeah, no like electrolytes or sodium or anything left in me, and that's what causes the cramps. Because as soon as I got on the bike, that first 40k, I started smashing the Gatorades, right? And I could feel my energy come back with every mouthful of Gatorade. Like, it was that quick. And after an hour on the bike, basically, I was back to fresh and ready to ride again. So that's something I won't do next time. Learn from my mistakes here. You know, this is, the training log's all about me being transparent with my learnings, and that's one lesson I'm taking out of this. As well as that, I mean, it could be things like, you know, my wetsuit could have been too tight and that wrapped around my legs too much, or I wasn't kicking very hard in the water. I sort of noticed that at halfway through. My legs were sort of just floating along behind, and I was very catch heavy. And then just on the swim as well, I noticed around 2.5k to 3k, when I mentioned before that I was in, you know, good 2k swim shape, my form just really deteriorated after that. So I think muscle endurance is what held me back quite a bit on the swim. But anyway, yeah, so breakfast, just in case you didn't watch the last training log before Ironman, that was Greek yogurt, chia seeds and walnuts. So it's just, yeah, no carbs basically for breakfast. My theory was that if you eat a high fat breakfast, then that switches you into a, you know, fat burning state for the rest of the day, which, look, maybe it did, because I didn't really bonk and I had great nutrition, great energy levels on the run, but I don't know if it was worth it for the cramps that it caused, or potentially caused, coming out of the swim. Anyway, we'll do more races in the future and we'll learn these things, and I'll be sure to share things as I learn. But that's the first lesson of the day was, yeah, terrible cramps getting out of the swim. So nutrition from there, as soon as I get out, I just start smashing down the Gatorades. We went pretty close, I would say almost exactly on our nutrition plan, which was 1 Gatorade per hour. I had 4 gels on the bike, so that was split up to, you know, just a bit over an hour per gel, more like an hour and a half-ish per gel. But yeah, 1 Gatorade, 1 gel per hour, and then I think I had 2 to 3 salt sticks. So of the 5 hours and 42 minutes on the bike, I must have gone through 15 salt sticks. So that's about 3 an hour, roughly. And that's just, I think each of those has 200 milligrams of sodium and then some other micronutrients or electrolytes, whatever you want to call them, that will be up on the screen now so you can see that. And then we kept that pretty similar onto the run. The only thing is though that on the run I have no idea the actual quantities of what I was consuming, because everything was coming out of a cup. More or less, what I did on the run was kind of what I mentioned in the last training log, where I said I want to be somewhat flexible with it and just grab what I need. So we went for mostly Gatorades for the first 20 kilometers. And what I did was essentially every aid station, I would just grab a cup of Gatorade. Hot tip for young players, if you do just grab your paper cups and squeeze the top, it basically just makes like a little straw like that you can then just sip out of. So that's a really good tip that I heard the day before in the athlete briefing. So it's one I didn't know before. Previous races like marathons and stuff, I just throw it all over myself and not actually drink any of it. So I had, yeah, about a cup of Gatorade every 2 kilometers, so half a cup. I don't know what that would work out to be, but as well as that, I had 2 salt sticks per hour, except for when I had that cramp at around the 5k mark. I think I had like 3 in one go there, and probably had like 5 per hour in that hour window. So that was more sodium throughout the day as well. So we kept heaps of salt on board, and that, you know, there's a lot of sodium in Gatorades as well as the salt sticks I'm having, and that's probably why I didn't cramp at all really through the run or on the bike. So there was the pain in my lower back, but I don't think that was really a cramp. So that was my nutrition on the run up to about the 20k mark, was all Gatorades. And then I was taking Red Bulls. They had Red Bull at one of the aid stations. I would take that, so once a lap basically, I would have 1 Red Bull. And then from about the 20k onwards mark, I started to mix it up a bit where I would have Gatorade at some and Coke at others, just to give myself some quick sugar. And that was about the 20 to 30-ish K mark is where I noticed a bit of an energy fade. It's probably around 25 to 26 kilometers where I noticed I wasn't really able to, yell back to the crowd and high five the supporters as much as I was for the first 25k. I was a bit more focused in the zone, and that's where I realized, okay, maybe I need to start smashing some more sugars down. I noticed if my brain gets a bit foggy, that's probably a good sign that I'm low on glycogen, because your brain uses up a lot of glycogen. So if that's starting to slow down and you aren't really as mentally aware or present, that's probably a good sign that you're low on glycogen. And so that's when I started to switch to the faster sugars like the Coke and the Red Bull more so. But one thing I didn't do is everyone says, oh, once you're on Coke, you have to be on it for the rest of the run. I mean, I didn't do that. I just had Coke when I wanted it and then some more Gatorade after that. Another thing as well to mention is I would take something at every aid station unless my stomach felt full. Like if I didn't want it, I just ran straight past that aid station. So that's because I read in that Chris McCormack book that I've mentioned before, I'm Here to Win. He said more races have been ruined by overfueling than underfueling. So I was very cognizant of that, not to overdo it on the run, because I didn't want to be having GI issues or throwing up, anything like that. Which I didn't. I had no stomach issues, no stitches, anything at all like that on the run or the bike. So Gatorade works well for me, which is great because they're an Ironman sponsor, Ironman partner, and they're available on every course. So works well for me. And yeah, that got us to the finish line. Nutrition wise, I had a couple waters with the Cokes as well. So I'd try and wash the Coke down with water because it is pretty strong. But yeah, apart from that, ice at the start, over the head, Gatorade or Coke, and then ice and water over the head again at the end of the aid station. So that was pretty much our nutrition for the entire Ironman. So some of you might also be interested in, what I had in my transition bags or what I had on the bike. If you've never done an Ironman, or some of you have never even done a triathlon before, that might be kind of helpful. So to start off with, in the swim, the only thing I really needed was obviously tri-suit, wetsuit, goggles, cap. That's it. You just jump out into the water with that. Come out into T1, and I didn't put my shoes on the bike because I'm not too fast at that whole flying start, so I just went for shoes in the transition bag, which you collect as you get out of the water. So all I did there was basically rip the wetsuit off, goggles and cap off, back in the bag, threw my bike shoes on, ran out onto the bike, and just chucked the helmet on, rode away. So what I had on the bike, basically I started with the 4 gels, and then I had 3 bottles of Gatorade. Now on my giant Trinity, there is a front hydration pack that I filled up with Gatorade, and then I just had 2 extra bottle holders, one on the back of the seat, one on the down tube. So my plan was to smash through to take every bit of nutrition through that front hydration pack. So I didn't want to be drinking out of bottles. If it's there, I might as well use it. So what I wanted to do was to drink everything through that front hydration pack, but then try and get rid of that bottle on the down tube as quick as I could, because it wasn't an aero bottle, it was there just to fill up. So I wanted to get through that top one and then refill it, chuck that bottle away, and then just run 2 for the rest of the day. So essentially, for most of the day, I had the 2 bottles, and then the volunteers were handing out Gatorade. So as soon as one was empty, one of those was empty, I would just grab another one, refill it straight back up. I did notice that the volunteer bottles weren't quite as concentrated as what I was making them up, and I was just following the actual recipe. So the volunteer ones were a little diluted. So I just, compensated for that by drinking more, basically. And then on the bike, I just had a CO2 canister with one of the pumps in case I had a flat, but my tires were tubulars with sealant in them, so I was really hoping that didn't happen. But that's all I really had on the bike, as well as this bag of salt sticks. So in the front pouch, I had 4 gels, and I think I started with 20 salt sticks, and we went through roughly 15 to 18 of them from memory. And that was everything I had on the bike. And then coming off onto the run, all I had to do there was take the shoes off, helmet off, rack the bike ourselves. Didn't have bike catches. Anyway, straight into T2, I just threw the belt on, which has your race bib on it. It had, in 2 pouches, it had salt sticks and gels. I didn't think I was gonna take the gels. I usually don't do gels on the run, and I didn't. But I did smash down those salt sticks quite regularly. Didn't run any kind of hat or anything like that. I just wanted to stay as cool as possible. Unzipped the shirt, threw the race shoes on, obviously. So Nike Alphaflys are unbelievable shoes, great shoes, highly recommend them. That was the first marathon I've ever done in them, and a 3:23 is a 30-minute marathon PB for me. Granted, I haven't done one in like 6 months, but still, that's pretty good PB. And that's pretty much it for everything we needed in the Ironman, more or less. I ran it pretty basic. I didn't want to worry about sunglasses, hats, all that kind of stuff that people fiddle around with. I just wanted to keep it short, sharp, simple. All our nutrition was fluid, more or less, except for the 4 gels. And that keeps it pretty easy, not too much to maintain. I had special needs bags set up with asthma inhalers in case I needed it, which I haven't needed for like months, but I didn't want to run that risk in Ironman. And I had some extra salt sticks. So those salt caps, in case they fell out of my pocket at any stage. I had that for the bike and the run, but didn't touch those bags at all. So that worked out quite well. Now, as far as things to work on coming off the back of this Ironman, so we found some strengths, we found some weaknesses. Obviously, there's nothing like doing a whole Ironman to test yourself and see exactly where you're at. So let's start off on the swim. Okay, first thing I'm going to be working on is more endurance. I'm going to bump the volume up on the swim, and we're going to work on that longer end endurance stuff. Said it, I was in pretty good 2.5K swim shape, but after the last 1500, my form deteriorated. I was ready to get out of the water. I kept sighting. I wasn't even looking for the buoy, the turn buoy. I was trying to find the finish line. So that's how desperate I was to get out. I was just like, get me to the end now. So swim, we're going to be working on endurance really. I do want to spend some more time in the wetsuit, getting used to that. And then open water swimming is useful, but Port Macquarie is a very sheltered swim in the river. So it's not too different to swimming in the pool, really, as far as I can tell. On the bike, what are we going to work on? We're going to work on holding the aero position very strictly. Like, I've had a bike fit and that's fine, but I'm very unflexible in my lower back and my hamstrings. I know this, so that's another thing I'm going to work on is flexibility. So on our long rides, I'm going to be trying to stay aero as well as I can, work on some core strength to really keep myself stabilized in that position as well. And then maybe get on some rollers as well. So I might get on some bike rollers that supposedly they're pretty good for training yourself to hold that TT position. But yeah, our main focus, the bike's probably going to be my main focus now as something I can work on to grab free time for the next Ironman. Because I feel like I left quite a bit of time out there on the bike course that day. Now granted, I don't know if let's say my back didn't give out and I was able to ride hard the whole way, would that have caused my marathon to go out the window and then I have a really slow marathon? I don't know. So if I rode faster, I don't know if I would have gone any quicker than 10 hours and 22 minutes. We'll never really know, to be honest, but one thing I do want to focus on now is getting stronger on the bike and getting good at going longer. So a lot of our sessions have been threshold sessions, the Tuesday and Thursday sessions, but there's usefulness in that, but I also do want to get some really Ironman specific training done on the bike. So that's one thing we're going to focus on. Now, the run felt great. I ran 42 kilometers with almost no pain in my legs. Energy wasn't there. And I think the way I've sort of reflected on the run is I have quite a strong run. So that's how I was able to run pretty consistently throughout. Even when we sort of slowed down towards the end, we were still keeping it below 5-minute pace, or just bang on 5 minutes per kilometer. So the way I've sort of formulated it is I have a strong run, but not a very fast run. So I'm able to run 42 kilometers off the bike quite comfortably without too much pain or too much effort. But the thing is, I can't run very fast off the bike without much pain. So that's what was holding me back. It wasn't, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. It was, I just cannot run faster than this. This is as fast as my legs will carry me right now. And it was just a lack of energy. So maybe a bit more speed work, but I do want to keep in so that run I've been doing where I go on a slow, long downhill and then a slow, long uphill where it takes like 5 kilometers of a 2% gradient, essentially where you go down and then back up. I think that is very, very useful for marathon running in an Ironman because in a weird way, it is a strength sport. You need to be strong enough to run 42 kilometers. And I felt like I was quite strong, but I wasn't quite fast. So I'm going to keep that strength aspect in on the long runs, but hopefully we can get a chance now to work on some more upper end speed and try and get a bit quicker for the next marathon. But all in all, my run, it probably was my strongest on the day. It was certainly the one where I felt the strongest on the day. So I'm not too focused on the run. I think we'll just sort of keep doing what we're doing there. But the bike and the swim are going to be areas where I know we can make up some pretty free time. Now, that brings us to, okay, well, what next? So I'm going to have a chat with the coach. I'm hoping I'll be able to record that one and I'll post it up here. And it's just going to be a candid chat about, okay, well, how did the race go? What have we got to work on? And how can we put together a bit of a race season? Like, which races should I be looking at doing? I've got my eye on some 70.3s, some more Ironmans, some shorter distance stuff. Like, I want to have fun. You know, I'm very new to triathlon. I just jumped straight in and did an Ironman, but I want to get a bit of experience under my belt in triathlons broadly. Getting some speed work done, but getting some more Ironmans done as well is going to be really great. And I'm absolutely loving the training log series, and the community around Ironmans is unbelievable. Like running with Dave, Owen, all the rest of you guys that were out there on the day that said g'day to me, it's unbelievable. It was so much fun. Yeah, I can't recommend Ironmans highly enough. Before going into it, I thought, oh, it's just a fun triathlon where you can test yourselves, but coming out of it now, I mean, I'm an Ironman Bible basher almost. I'm going around telling everyone how good they are. So it's quite funny, but it's yeah, something that's really, really enjoyable. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this video, but not only this video, the whole training log series up to Ironman Australia. The videos aren't going to end. I'm going to keep posting weekly. I'll keep the training log going, so I'll keep an overview of my weekly training. But I'll also start to look at including just some one-off, workout videos. I've got some mates that want to do like some fun runs and things like that. So I'll try and make some more one-off video content, or, just different stuff now that's not just weekly updates on how I'm training. I'll keep those going, but I'd like to add some more stuff in now that I've got a chance to, sit back and reflect and think about what we can do for the rest of triathlon this year and the years to come. So looking to put out quite a bit more content, which is going to be great fun. As far as what races we're going to do next, yeah, I'll have to have a chat with the coach and we can sort that one out from there. But Ironman Australia next year is almost guaranteed. I think entry's open for that later this week, and look, I'm probably going to sign up for that one. There's a 70.3 in September that I'm quite close to signing up for, but I'm going to have a chat with coach first and just see what the best plan for us is, and what kind of goals we can set. We've got a good benchmark here to know just a bit of a baseline fitness, 10 hour 22 Ironman shape more or less. I feel like there's plenty of obvious things or low hanging fruit that we can just grab and take some time off that 10 hours and 22 minutes. So plenty of time to pick up for the next one. And it's going to get really fun here because I've actually got some Ironman experience, so I can actually provide a little bit more insight into what triathlon training should be, which is going to make the video content hopefully a bit more informative and somewhat more entertaining. So it's going to be good fun. Thanks everyone for watching the series. I'm pretty surprised with how many people have actually reached out and given some support with the videos. So yeah, I'm looking forward to keeping it all going. See you in the next one.